All right, joining us now and in the circle, of course, the head coach at Miami of Ohio. They're rolling 8-0 in the MAC, just rolling over teams with a dynamic offense. And Coach Kumar joins us now here and in the circle. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you today?
Pretty good. Not as good as your team. Your team's been rolling. Let's talk about this. Here in your first season, 17-6 overall, 8-0 in the conference. Really playing some great softball. You're coming off a 15-2 win over Eastern Kentucky. I'm just curious about the transition. Every time you coming in, has it been smoother than you would have thought coming in here? Because it seems like it's been clicking from day one.
Well, it's very interesting because I had my interview on Zoom. I met the girls on Zoom. So yeah, it's been like one of the easiest transitions I think you could think of during a COVID year. And they bought in right away. So the transition has been easier than expected, and it's a testament to the girls who've gone through a lot this year, going through their season getting canceled to getting a new coach during this time. That they made it easy. They made it so easy.
What's been so fascinating about Miami, when we've talked about the program in the past, it's always been pitching, and you've got the pitching, but your offense has really stood out, hitting 326 this season as a team, 32 home runs in 23 games. You've already scored 168 runs. What has been the key to this offensive surgence from this team that's really made it a little easier for your pitching staff to deliver? You got some depth offensively. How has that come around? Because that's not something we've seen recently from teams from Miami there. They've always been known for pitching, but this offense has kind of clicked.
Well, I've had a great staff to help me. So Coach Zirkle, Morgan Zirkle, was like top 5 in Athletes Unlimited, was here last year. And when I got the job, I said, hey, this is how I want hitting done. Research it and see if this is, and she 100%. So her and I do the hitting, and the girls just bought in. They said, you know what, we want to be a better team. We want to be able to hit the ball. And so I'm pretty sure I could have told them anything and they would have done it. And that's kind of the testament of who they are. And so Coach Zirkle, Coach Z, who's, as you know, a tremendous hitter, and she taught herself not only to slap, but to hit. So she can take her experiences and show the girls that you don't have to come in just hitting, that you can evolve. And that's kind of what she's been doing with them. And it's slow. It took some time, but all fall we worked on hitting. We continue to do it. And it's something that the girls are taking pride in now.
And a lot of pride indeed. And, I mentioned you've hit 32 home runs, but you've also stolen 38 bases, which is something Morgan was tremendous at, and Marshall. So you've got that versatility. You can hit for power, but you can also go for speed, manufacture runs. You get on base over a 400 clip. That's huge to have that balance offensively. You're not one-dimensional.
No, and that's something I didn't know really until we played our first game in season. We weren't able to have a fall season, and everybody knows that, right? So first year coach, you scrimmage, you let them play, right? They do it, and you kind of sit back and watch. But to actually see them do it, like in the first couple games, it's like, oh, we got something going. So we're utilizing everything that the girls have. And they are, they know if they're fast or not. They take the bases if they know they can. They know their limits. They also know their strengths. And so when you're teaching them the game and saying, hey, this is what you're good at, this is what you're good at, they can go out and do it themselves. So they've embraced who they are offensively. And so that makes them more confident in every decision they make.
One of your leaders offensively has been Allie Cummings, who's got 8 homers, 25 RBIs, 10 doubles, among the nation's leaders in those categories. 21 walks. Teams are walking her. She's on a 608 on base percentage, slugging over 1,000. What can you say about her as if you gotten to know her and it's really clicked for her?
She's a great hitter coming in. And she just, I don't think there's a day she doesn't hit on her own. We have little batting cages are indoors and they have their own code. And she calls me and it would be like, hey, do you, can you watch this film? And then, it's like 10 p.m. at night. So she works hard at her craft, and, she listens, she does everything that you ask her to do. It's pretty amazing. She has one of the best eyes I've ever coached. And so when you got a hitter that's that powerful, but then has an eye like that, it's tough to pitch to. So she loves hitting. She's a great person beyond having, the skills to do everything. So it's so much to watch. The EKU game, she hit 2 home runs with 5. So I think she walked twice, 2 home runs, and 5 RBIs. So it's fun. She hit 600 this weekend against Central Michigan, and she thought she did awful. Oh, come on, take a break. You need a break. Go settle down. So she's so much fun to have around.
It's an incredible numbers. And then obviously, but you got more than just her. You got obviously Kate Kobayashi, who's hit 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 396 average. Carly Spade, who's got 3 homers, 17 RBIs, but also has 11 steals, kind of sets the table there on the base pads.
So Carly, who's a freshman, she kind of struggled at the very beginning. You sit there and you're like, man, we know she has it. When's it going to click? And it just wasn't clicking. I'm not sure, but she was hitting like 1 something. And one day at practice, we're sitting there as coaches and we're just watching her, and all of us looked at each other and we go, I think she's figured it out. And since then, I think she has raised her batting average to 380. This past weekend, she was NFCA Player of the Week, 500, had 13 RBIs in the 2 spot. She's hit second for us. So, our entire lineup is getting on base, but she's powerful and she can run. That's just, I can't wait to see what she does here in 4 years.
Tell us about the rest of the offense. And it's provided depth, which is important, and this year in particular, to have a key offense, to have depth like that, it really is huge. Because sometimes when a coach comes into a program, there's some missing pieces here we got to fill here. But, it seems like you've got some players you inherited very well from the previous staff that did a good job here that you've been able to mold.
Yeah, the previous staff did fantastic job. That's one of the hardest things coming in as a head coach is taking over a program that's successful. Is it makes you kind of step back and go, are they going to listen to you? They already know how to win. What do they want? But they wanted more. They wanted to play the tough teams, and they wanted to see what they can do against them. So I think they kind of looked a little bit of where I was coming from and saw that, okay, maybe we can go to the next level. And so like Kate Kobayashi, she came from Virginia Tech, transfer from Virginia Tech. So that's where I was last year. And so she's come in, fit right in right away. She provides speed and power, in center field right now. We have Adriana Barlow. She was somebody that was hitting 9-hole last year, and now she's our 4-hole. She has 33 RBIs. She probably won't steal any bases, but don't tell her I said that. She knows. Carly Juarez, who is a freshman from California, she's our leadoff, and I think she tore it up against Mississippi State, but the girls love her at the leadoff spot. Like, she's just like one of those people that knows exactly what the pitchers are throwing, and it's just so fun to see. She's a little bit unconventional up there, and we wouldn't have it any different. She's an artist also. One of our pitchers, she's fluent in Russian. We just have this whole group from top to bottom that brings a wide variety of not only skills on the softball field, but off the field. And so that just makes it fun.
And it's huge because you've got your pitching staff led by Courtney Vierstra, who, of course, threw the perfect game on Friday against Central Michigan in that conference series opener. She's been off to a good start for you, 9-2 on the season. But this pitching staff's got to pitch with, got to feel that they can have a lot of confidence because they're going to get a lot of run support, and it's got to free them up as far as being aggressive pitching-wise, right?
Yeah, and we have a 1-2 punch in Courtney and Bree Pratt, who they're two very different pitchers, and they come in, I think, Bree this past weekend pitched 13 innings with 15 strikeouts also, and you're sitting there and she had a .54 ERA and Courtney pitched a perfect game. You're only allowed to pick one person to pick for the pitcher of the week. And I sit there and I go, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I'm okay with that. I told him, I said, thank you. So no, the pitching staff, like they're only pitching, 9 to 11 innings in a 4-game series. And I said, hey, are you guys okay with that? And they're like, we love it. So they just, it's amazing to see everything click. Pitching, everyone knows Miami has pitching and they haven't disappointed. We have kind of a tandem where the pitchers call their own games. The pitchers and catchers call their own games. So Courtney's perfect game was her and her catcher, Allie Cummins. So it's Bree and Riley, like they tag team. So Bree and Riley catches Bree and Allie catches Courtney, and that's how they do it. And they know each other and they know what they're looking to call. So as coaches, it's so much fun to see that you sat there and you taught them in the fall what they're good at, what to do, and then they're taking it and running with it.
What led you to that decision where you allow them to call their own game, basically, give them that confidence? Where did that come from?
So in the fall, it was just Morgan and I. It was just the two of us. And so when we were scrimmage, the catchers were calling their own game and the pitchers. So after each inning, I would go to them. We would talk about why you threw this pitch, why you don't, and so all fall, they were learning to do that. And so when it came to season, they came to me and goes, hey, coach, is it okay if we call our own game? And I said, absolutely, as long as we still do the scouting reports and do that. And they talked to Coach Brandon, is our pitching coach. He sets them up before the games. We do our scouting reports, and then in between every inning, they talk about each hitter. And that's kind of how it came about, was teaching them in the fall. And then they were confident enough to come to me and say, hey, can we do it? And I was like, absolutely. They liked the rhythm of it. They liked the flow. They were confident in saying, like, I want to throw this pitch. So, you don't see that very often in college, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
I think it speaks, too, to the connection that you and the players have, which, again, this is your first season with them. You inherited a lot of them, and yet to have that trust so quickly, especially under the circumstances, as you mentioned, you got there, you couldn't be around them because of the protocols and COVID. How were you all able to earn that trust so quickly? Because you've been around this for a long time. Sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes players might say, that's I didn't come here to play for that coach. I'm not going to listen, but they bought in right away. What was it? What worked there?
Well, I wish I knew I could pinpoint that, but I think it has to come from the leaders. So we have 4 girls on a leadership committee, and they're the ones that kind of handle it and said, you know what? Let's give her a chance. Let's go with it. And ever since then, it let all the younger young ladies come and say, you know what, let's go, let's listen and see if this works. And so it's a testament to Courtney, Jada, Morgan, and Riley to say, hey, let's see what they have to say and go from there. It helped, like Coach Z, Morgan Zirkle, was here last year. So she also had a connection with them and was able to help me navigate each and every one of them. And so I don't know to pinpoint the answer to that. If you do know, if you figure it out, it'd be awesome, because these young ladies are awesome.
Well, let me piggyback on that. You just mentioned Coach Zirkle was there last year, so the girls were familiar with her. How important was it to, keep her, if you will, from that standpoint, not just what she brings as an offensivist coach, but just the fact she knows the players, she knows how things work there. How important was that in the transition for you?
As a first-year head coach, it was huge, right? So things have changed a little bit with COVID, where there's been, staff reductions places. So how to do things off the field. how are each of the girls handling what happened over the summer? Like, she was there for all of it. So not only her softball IQ and what she brought, but she brought the off-field culture that is very, very important, right? Culture is always greater than talent. And so she was able to help the transition both between them and myself. And so it's, you have a lot of people say, you got to bring people in and this. But after my first Zoom meeting with her, because I met Coach Zirkle on Zoom, I was like, you know what, I think me and her can work really well together. And I think it's showing that it's working.
Yeah, I would say so. It's working and then some. And then you brought in Brandon Duncan to handle the pitching. Talk about that process. I know you knew him for a while. What makes him the solid pitching coach that he is?
So what's very interesting is that Brandon was our pitching coach at Georgia Tech my senior year in college. So it's kind of full circle, right? So he coached me and now he's here. So, I'm going back to the thing about bringing someone that you can trust as your first year head coach, and pitching is obviously important in softball. And so bringing him in, I knew him, he knew how I am. So it made it very easy to navigate that. And him wanting to come back to coach with me, it just kind of showed me that he believes in me. So not only does he have an amazing relationship with the pitching staff and the entire team, but he can also throw batting practice to our hitters. So it's twofold. I mean, so he throws to them, they're getting that. So it's a whole dynamic. And the interesting part is he's like the softer one, he's like the more, they can go to him for that, where Coach Zirkle and I are like, we tell things straight up. So dynamic works pretty well, but it's a very different dynamic.
Well, it's a unique dynamic. You've got a lot of quality arms. We've talked about Courtney and obviously in Brianna, but you also have Taylor Rath and Taylor Turner. What does that mean to have these extra options pitching-wise here? So pivotal in a year like this, especially to have this dynamics where you can give opponents a lot of different looks.
So it's one thing that they are is they're very selfish. It's selfless. They're very selfless. So they don't care about the accolades and who's starting and who's pitching. They come and say, hey, I'll be ready, whatever. So they each bring, so Taylor Rothy, who's a lefty, brings us a different look, right? Taylor Turner, who's a freshman, she throws hard. And so it's easy, like it's really tough for opponents to kind of prepare for one pitcher and then see several different ones. So the staff that we have is something that they work so well together, and they do not care who gets the credit. And that makes it easy as a coach to know if someone's struggling, it doesn't matter if I pull them or not. Someone's doing well, it doesn't matter if they're pitching 2 games in a row.
We're speaking with head coach Kirin Kumar here on In the Circle. You've got a fascinating coaching kind of a traveling story. And even a softball playing career story. So I kind of want to touch into this a little bit because you mentioned it. You played at Georgia Tech, but you're from California. So I want to actually start there. What got you interested in playing softball, and how does a California girl ended up going to Georgia Tech?
So I'm first generation. My parents are from India. My dad played tennis and cricket and volleyball. So when I was starting, my friends from school, their sister was playing softball, and I was like, well, why don't I try this? And my dad's like, it has to be similar to cricket. So that's kind of how that started, and it got me college scholarship, and education is very, very important. And Georgia Tech is a fantastic academic school. So 2 things for me is that it was in the city and it was academically where I wanted to be. So that's kind of what brought me there, and I wouldn't change that for the world. And then right after graduating, I was going to go into the finance world, but Coach John Barfelt, who's now at Oklahoma State, got the job at Tulsa. And he gave me a call and said, hey, would you like to come be my assistant? And at the time, I'm young, and I said, you know what? I'll try it. If I don't like it, I'll go back to the finance world, and 16 years later, I'm running my own program. So it's because of John that I'm here. So it's full circle because he coached me also at Georgia Tech.
That is wild. And, I've told you off the air, that's kind of how I knew you, was as the Tulsa assistant, because you had 2 different stints with him at Tulsa from, I think, what was it, '05 to like '08, '09 range, right? And then you came back a few years later.
05 to 10. And then I came back, in 14 to 16.
What did you learn from?
Yeah, John.
That's pretty wild, the 2 stints there.
What did I learn from John? I learned everything from John. John is one of the best coaches out there, and everybody knows it. So he challenged me. He, when I would ask a question, he would give me the other side of why or why not. He also trusted me enough to do every single part of a program to get me prepared for this. I made my first offer when I was an assistant at Tulsa. And so he basically got me ready for this, even though, I was with him for 7 years and I still call him a lot.
What's the biggest advice he gave you when you got this head coaching job? Because I'm sure you reached out to him when you got this job. What's the biggest advice he gave you?
Don't mess your pictures up. I mean, no, it's just like one of the biggest things is not everything is black and white. Right? Like, so if, in finance world, it's numbers, it's easy, but in softball, that's not the way it is. And he's always kept me enough to say, hey, it's not just one way. And then another huge mentor that I have is Tyra Perry, who's at Illinois, and she's been extremely successful. So I have 2 great mentors that I can call if I ever need it. And I do often.
That's tremendous. And, you had some stops too, right? At Western Kentucky and Tennessee Tech. Talk about those routes and what you learned there before you went back to Tulsa.
Yeah, so Western Kentucky is where I coached with Tyra and in the Sun Belt. So that's back when South Alabama and Louisiana were really tough. And so we won the conference for the first time ever. And you went to regionals for the first time ever with Tyra. And so she built a program there. And so it was fun to see that group of girls who I believe that the senior class didn't make the conference tournament to going into winning conference and going to regionals. So Tyra had her vision and system to build it there. And then my trip back to Tulsa, it's someone, he trusted me and I trusted him. So it was really, really easy to do.
What did you learn from Coach Perry? And did you know then that she would be as successful as she has been now, obviously currently at Illinois? What did you learn from her during that time?
Oh, the way she sits back and doesn't make rash decisions. The way she recruits, it doesn't matter. She can see kids, she can see the young ladies and say, you know what, they have something, how to manage people. Being at a small school and being so successful, she's just a great person also. So and my advice to everyone is to have those really good mentors that can help you and also tell you straight up if you're wrong or you're doing something wrong. And so she's able to do that for me, where I can call her up and she says, no, you can't do it that way. Or, hey, this is a way to do that. So yeah, it's just fun to have your mentors be so successful. And you asked, did I know if she would be? And absolutely, you can see it.
You can see it, definitely see it. What's so fascinating about your 2 times at Tulsa was there was during 2 different conferences for them. They were in Conference USA your first run, and then they were in the American the second time. How was that and being at the program, back at the program, but yet in 2 different conferences, different conferences at that point?
So the conferences, to me, and I could get to me, I don't think it matters what conference you are in if you are a program and a good coaching staff to do. And that's what John, Chrissy, I mean, that's what they can do, right? It doesn't matter. Put them in any conference and they're going to be successful. And the funny thing is that a lot of the teams were the same. So Conference USA kind of transitioned into American Athletic, and very much a lot of the teams were the same. So I didn't see it much of a difference. You go out there, you make sure the girls are successful on and off the field, they're graduating, and you're winning on the field. It really doesn't matter, like, for the conference. But it's also what made it interesting was having the rivalries, right, with Central Florida at that time. So that's I'm glad that they stayed in the conference together.
I agree. I mean, that's a fun series. Obviously, championships have always been battled. And you got to coach some great players at Tulsa. Lauren Lindsay jumps to mind. She was the first All-American at Tulsa. What was it like to coach players like her and others, but her specifically because she was the first All-American in that program, which, that's when that program gets that first All-American. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so she was our leadoff hitter, and watching her, she again had one of those good eyes, and I remember, and she just I don't know what to say about her except that she could hit. I mean, and she was a good person. So I remember in 2009, we were at regionals in Oklahoma, and we had a runner on first, and she was the tying run or the winning run, but they walked her. Oklahoma walked her because they didn't want her to hit, and a pinch hitter comes in and hits it. So but Lauren didn't care that they walked her. She knew someone behind her was going to get it. So she, having the first All-American there, I mean, she deserved everything for that. And now, obviously she's a successful professional. So it's fun to see that too.
No question. One of the best ever. Your last year at Tulsa was 2016. Made that great run in the conference tournament where you won the quarterfinal game. You beat UCF in the semifinals after losing to them in a heartbreaking fashion the year before in Orlando on the walk-off home run. You beat South Florida. Caitlin Sill was the MVP. What was it about you all? Because it seemed like you guys turned up your game during conference tournament week, even with Coach Barfield, even back in the Conference USA days and in the American. You always were the team that was right there at the end in conference tournament. You always were there in the regular season, but it seemed like you took it to a different level in the conference tournament. What was it about that postseason that you all were able to figure out to get the most out of your players?
I think they just always had a little fire under them, right? So it was like, we did it in the regular season. Like, let's just prove that someone can't just have a hot weekend and beat us, right? So they wanted to be great, and they knew that being great wasn't just one fold. And so, Coach Jay, he's very, very even keeled, right? Like, and that he's very even keeled. And so the girls kind of take after him. And then when he got to conference tournament, it was a little bit more up. So the girls got a little bit more. And it's just the idea of knowing, we beat them in the regular season. Like, let's just show them that wasn't a fluke.
You went to the ACC, spent some time at NC State, and then Virginia Tech, where you helped them win the regular season title under Coach DeMoore. What was your experience like in the ACC? I know you spent time at NC State, but especially at Virginia Tech, where you helped turn that program around. When Coach DeMoore and you all came, they were kind of at the bottom there, and you built it up quicker than maybe a lot of people thought to get to win the ACC regular season title and get them back to the tournament.
Well, those young ladies are fantastic. I mean, they're gamers, they're athletic, and they needed a little bit, someone different to come around, and Coach Pete comes in, and I mean, he's a fantastic coach. His eye for talent, knowing what it takes to win at a high level. And so he brought that, Coach Gillis, and then we've all been at a high level. So showing the girls what it was like, did that. Now, also, him doing the hitting there, also, they went from having the pitching and then having the hitting behind it to when you have all facets of a game, you can do that. And that's what they're doing. They're continuing to do now. And so knowing that when you have the athletes, all you have to do is kind of coach them up just a little bit, and they'll run with it. So, and that's kind of what happened at Virginia Tech.
You also helped out with the defense. They were among the best in the country. That's always something. Even at Tulsa, you all were known for your defense. Like when Tulsa made an error, it was kind of a shocking story. It was breaking news. Where did you learn the defensive philosophy? Where did that all come from, and why everywhere you've been, your teams have always been good defensively?
So what's the old adage that defense wins championships, right? Like, you can also say that defense gives your offense a chance to win it. But when you have great pitching, you don't want the one time the ball gets put in play, you want to be able to know that they have it back there. But I think the reason why I love defense is I'm a better defensive player than I was offensive player. So you tend to like gravitate to where, you're strong at. And so that kind of comes from Georgia Tech and my head coach there, where Aaron Earlywine taught us like the game of how to do that. And so I kind of taken that everywhere I go, because you don't want to make just the ESPN play, but every routine play, right? The pitcher has to know that if she doesn't have her stuff that game, that the defense has their back. And so that's kind of what we ran with.
It's been successful. As you went through all your coaching journey, did you want to be a head coach at some point? Did you question if you ever get the opportunity to be a head coach? We had Tyra Perry on the show over the summer, and a big topic obviously was minority hiring and in the sport, and how has it grown? Is it getting better and things like that? From your standpoint, I mean, you've had success. You've coached under great coaches. Did you ever question, hey, am I ever going to get a chance to be a head coach? Did you want that opportunity?
So I really did want that opportunity, and I never got the opportunity. So then it came to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to get the opportunity. To this past year, maybe I will get it. So let's try again. And Miami has been awesome. My journey, it took me 16 years to get here, and I wouldn't change it for the world, because I've learned at every stop different ways to win, different ways to the culture and off the field, because there's not just one way to do it. So to answer your question, yes, I wanted to be a head coach. Yes, I didn't think I was going to ever get a chance to let's try again and finally getting it. And yeah, that I'm you never think that, okay, the reason you get hired is because like there's a trend going. You're hoping that your resume is what got you to where you're at. And I'm hoping that that's kind of what happened. But Miami's been awesome, and I wouldn't change it for the world. The young ladies are fantastic. My staff is fantastic. And the admin has been awesome. And especially during this time, right? Like it's been a transition for everybody. So all answers yes to all your questions.
No, very good. And I remember Coach Perry says she feels it's improving in the sport. Do you feel, as you've been to the sport as a player and as a coach for a while, do you feel that we're heading in the right direction from a minorities being involved in the game from a coaching standpoint, playing standpoint, and supposed to maybe when you started playing? Do you feel there? Have you seen the improvements there?
I've definitely seen the improvements. I'm also in the category that if you're qualified, that you should, get the job, and it shouldn't matter. But when there are two people that have the same or more qualifications, like for me, it took me 16 years to become a head coach. I don't know if that's the way it is for other people also. And so, yes, I see it improving. It could get better. But the only way that's going to happen is, one, that we as females, minorities, that we try. Right? Like if we don't even try to become a head coach or to run our own program, then getting the opportunity is not there. So I think sometimes, like for me, there was a point where I didn't try. It was like, okay, it's not going to happen, to a point like, let me try again. And I just don't want anyone to kind of give up. I want them to always try. Yeah.
Right, because if you didn't try, maybe this opportunity doesn't come. The Miami opportunity doesn't come to you if you didn't make the effort, right? I mean, that's a great lesson for everybody. you never know. You always keep trying and give the opportunities, and then the door will eventually open if you're good enough. And just tell us about that. Tell us how this Miami came about. What was it that drew you there? How did it all come out where, you end up there once Clarissa obviously moved on to Penn State?
Yeah, so I've known Clarissa since she was at Oklahoma State, so I know following her was going to be a big task. A couple of things about Miami that really drew me to is it's a high academic school. And coming from Georgia Tech, like that's kind of something that's really big for me because now you can teach them the game. Like they are students of the game. For me, I'm a city girl and it's like 40 minutes away from Cincinnati. But if you're, like the rural country, you also have Oxford, which is right here. So it's a best of both worlds. And so the MAC is a great conference. It needs, I don't think there's ever been an at-large in the MAC conference for softball. And that also drew me to it because I'm like, man, the MAC has had some great teams, Central Michigan, Ball State, Miami. So what can we do to get them over the hump? And obviously in my coaching journey, I kind of like a little bit of the challenge. From Tulsa to Western Kentucky to Virginia Tech, I like the challenge, and so let's see what we can do here.
And you're not ducking anybody. You opened the season at Mississippi State, played a classic game opening day, which I think even opened eyes. And you even mentioned you learned some things about your team that opening weekend in Starkville. You go to Knoxville to play Tennessee. You beat them 2-0. You get a split. You go back to your back to your alma mater, Georgia Tech, and take 2 games from them and your former teammate Eileen Morales. I hope you're still 2 friends after that. But then you also go to Georgia. That is an incredible schedule. You go to Kennesaw and Trip McKay. They got a very good team. Just talk about your scheduling philosophy. Went to Louisville. You have played teams here and you've beaten teams here, but just a unique schedule to start on the road against some of the top teams.
So the schedule was already made. And as, you sit there and you learn different things, and then COVID happens, and we had a tournament that we were going to in the first weekend that the school couldn't have multi-team tournaments. Okay, so then you send around and you get what happened, and Mississippi State had sent an email, said, hey, we have a tournament. And I said, okay, great, I'm here. And then a month later, they email back and say, hey, everyone's backed out. It's just us and you. And I said, great, 3-game series, I'm in. But the young ladies on this team, when I called them and I talked to them when I first got the job, said, we want to play a harder schedule. And that's not just one person and not just our pitchers to see what they can do. It was like the entire team that said, we want a challenge. We want to see, because there was other teams in the MAC that were doing that and that are doing that. So I think they saw that and said, okay. So it did not scare me to say, hey, Mississippi State, we're okay. Let's go 3-game series. Tennessee called Megan and I, the pitching coach there, really good friends. And she goes, hey, why don't you come down here? And I was like, oh, okay. Let's our first game yet. Sure. Okay. The Georgia Tech game was already set. I'm not changing it. It's my alma mater. It was fun. But then Georgia State called because it was that freeway series that they do, the I-75. So it's Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Kennesaw, and it's usually other teams, but we happen to be the only team from out of state that were there. So Roger from Georgia State calls me and goes, hey, Georgia needs some games. Would you be okay with playing them? First thing I did was call John and call Tyre and go, what am I doing as a first-year head coach? I got Mississippi State, I got Tennessee, and then now Georgia wants to play. And they're like, what do you think? I go, I don't know, like as a first-year head coach. And I called one other coach and they're like, do it. Just do it. Like, you just do it. And so I talked to some of the seniors and I said, what do you think? And they're like, yeah. So there we go. Let's go, and they came out with the fire under them and they haven't stopped. So yeah, I don't know what I was doing, but I'm glad I did it.
It worked. It's worked and it's tested your team and you learned a lot about your team. What was the moment? What was the game or the moment that you learn about your team? Like, you know what, this team could be really, really good, because you can only do so much in practice. You can only learn so much in practice. Once you face other opponents and the competition you face on the road, when was that moment? Was there a moment, a game where you were like, hey, we got a chance to, we got something pretty good here?
So I think the first game versus Mississippi State, we lost 10-9, and our pitcher, it was really, really cold, and our pitcher walked 9. She actually walked in the winning run. That's when we were like, I think we're good enough. And then we get to Tennessee, and in the first game, we were up 3-1 going into the 6th. And we ended up losing that game. And at the end of that game, we go into the circle, and I said, I have one question for you guys, and only one. Do you guys think you're good enough to win? And every single person said yes. And that was like the kind of the nail in the coffin where we knew we were going to win that game. And so it was kind of a combination of things where we saw it versus Mississippi State, and then we solidified it versus Tennessee.
I remember watching the Georgia Tech game. It was on, and I remember because I remember seeing you beat Tennessee. But you know how this is. All right, you proved you could beat Tennessee, but what do you do after that, right? Was that like a once deal there, or can you build on that? And I was impressed. You went to Atlanta. They were playing well at the time, and you took 2 from them. And I thought that cemented your confidence there moving forward in Atlanta. What was it like for you? I know you've been probably back there before, but having played there, what is it like to be back playing against your alma mater?
I will tell you, it was mentally and physically draining. It was incredible to see them, see like old teammates, and then seeing some of the admin that was there, but then watching our team play against them. I mean, it was like the first game, I think we were winning, and then we were losing, and then we tied it in the 7th, and then it was physically and emotionally draining. So I think the rest of the weekend kind of showed that, but it was a great feeling being there. It was nerve-wracking. It was awesome. It was every emotion you can think of, because like I said, we were winning, we were losing, and then all of a sudden we took 2. And so I would do it again.
Yeah, I would say so. You played at the Louisville tournament. You beat Louisville on the road. I mean, you got big wins on the road. Do you feel that kind of put your team ready for conference? Because you then kind of blitzed in the first couple of conference series, as we'll get into. You went 8-0, but I felt like I watched that Louisville game. It was almost like I could sense watching it that you expected to win at that point as a group. Is that a fair description that, hey, it's not like we're hoping to win maybe like you thought maybe at the beginning of the year. Now you expect to win because you've done it.
Yeah, and it's their confidence, the ladies' confidence. Like, they had to see that they could do it, and now I don't think that there's anything they think they can't do. And that's the way it should be, right? And so you're right. Like, they're walking into the very first game of the season is like, bright eyes, and then all of a sudden like, nah, this is, we got this, right? It doesn't matter what happened, we got this. And so I do believe that our schedule has gotten us ready for conference, absolutely, and hopefully for more. But, I mean, we got to take it one game at a time, so.
Let's talk about the MAC conference scheduling. It's a 4-game series. Take us through it from a coach's standpoint, the process. Knowing, are we going to play? If we are going to play, what kind of schedule can we do, and type of thing? And how do you get to where you got to at this point now where you're going to be playing a 4-game series?
So before I got here, the tournament got taken away. So the MAC tournament got taken away, and they were playing a 30-game schedule. So they were going to play everybody in conference 3 times. It used to be divisions. And so that's kind of how the way they had separated it from the COVID year. And when I got the job and more talking, the MAC baseball decided to do a 4-game series because they didn't know if out of conference was going to be able to play or not. And so we said, you know what, that actually is a really good idea. Let's do the 4-game series. That gives us 40 games, regardless of what happens. If non-conference gets taken away for us, anything that happens, we can reschedule. It also allowed us to schedule 16 non-conference games, which is much easier to schedule during a COVID year than 26. So I have a full schedule, completely 56 games. I don't have room to add a game. I've been very fortunate that we haven't lost a game or canceled a game.
Sure.
So that's kind of how that came about. I'm very glad it did because it allows our girls to play. Now, nobody wants to play 4 games against the same team, but I will do whatever it takes to get these young ladies on the field. So we play a single Friday, double Saturday, a single Sunday, but we also have 2 travel partners that we play a double header during the week. And so we'll have 4 straight weeks. In a 4-week span, we're going to play 24 conference games. So that I'm not yet sure how we're going to manage that yet. We haven't gotten there, but it's about to happen.
It's you and everybody else. That's kind of wild. That's obviously an adjustment, right, from a coaching staff. That's not something you're accustomed to. I know it's just for 1 year, but that is a unique adjustment. Do you think will the conference tournament be back in the future? Is that still up in the air? What's the word as far as the future is concerning?
We're trying to get it back for next year. I don't know. There's no word on it. I think right now that's not on the forefront of everyone's mind. It is as coaches. So right now it's not there next year, but we're going to do whatever we can to try to get it back to see what we can do. I think that everybody likes, playing everybody, not 4 times, but I think they like that instead of divisions. But we'll see. I mean, I think what we decide now is not going to happen, a month from now. And all of us know that That's kind of what's happening all season.
Well, I feel like, too, it's a good year to kind of experiment, right? Like, what do you like? What do you not like? Like, I would imagine maybe there's some things now that you wouldn't think you would have done, maybe from a scheduling standpoint, non-conference, that maybe you would consider now doing based on this season. And obviously being fortunate, as you know, not a lot of schools have the luxury of traveling like you have been able to, especially in the Midwest. Big Ten, for example, obviously going conference only. So you got to feel fortunate in that you've been allowed to schedule Tennessee, Mississippi State, and go to Louisville, where other schools haven't.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the administration has been behind us 100%, helping us out in, hey, this is what we can and cannot do. But they've also been lenient in trying to help us get to our goals. So we're doing everything by the guidelines, probably a little bit stricter than most people, where we have a mask mandate even outside. So like we have our first scrimmage in the fall and our masks have to be on while we're playing. So there's that aspect. But in terms of saying, hey, let's go play a schedule that's going to get us prepared, they're all in. And that's kind of, and the fortunate thing too of where Oxford is we're in driving distance to a lot. So it makes it much easier to say, you know what, we can take a bus trip to Tennessee and Louisville, and we're there. Kentucky's not far. Indiana, obviously the Big Ten is not playing, but they've been behind us 100%. So that's been so helpful for us.
It's huge. I mean, that's huge, and it's probably one of the reasons that drew you there, because you knew you would have the backing of the administration, which is a credit to them.
My sports administrator is alumni, so that makes it so much better, and she's awesome.
That makes it definitely awesome there for sure. And talk about the MAC. I mean, you mentioned it's a unique dynamic now. 4-game series, no conference tournament. For those that don't follow it closely, it's a tough competition, tough league, wide open. There's some new coaches. You're not alone in that, but yet. What's kind of the outlook here for the league here? It's going to be a battle every week, but you got other teams that are going to be good. Ball State's good, among others. What is it going to be like in the MAC and the keys to winning?
So one of the things, and everyone knows this, is that it is tough to beat any team 4 times. All right, you got to make adjustments. You have to be prepared. Are you guys healthy? Are they taking care of their bodies? Are they taking care of academics? And so there's so many factors that go into it. Going on the road is different than playing at home. And so the MAC can hit the ball. They got pitching. And so every single game is going to be a grind. And that's what's, trying to elevate everybody, where Central Michigan plays Notre Dame, and they, everyone is playing tough competition. You got Kent, who went and played Georgia. So they're all of them are prepared for MAC. And so knowing that every single game is going to be a battle, we're strategically, how do you work your pitching? Like I said, we're fortunate that we have 4 or 5 pitchers that we can throw. And for a conference series like this, it's a benefit to us.
Couple last things. How are you as a coach different than you were as a player? If I put Kirin Kumar, the player, and the coach in the same room, how would they get along?
Oh gosh, we're probably the same person. Ask John. He would. No, I mean, I've definitely gotten better, right? Like, you learn every single day that you're a coach. You learn. So I probably don't take things, as seriously as I probably did as a player. I also learned that there's more than one ways to do things. When you're a player, you're like, oh yeah, this is the way to do it. The only way I've done. And now you learn, no, there's more than one way. Like, you could do it this way. And so, but otherwise I'm pretty much the same, still straightforward, and love softball. So, I mean, I think we would get along. I don't know.
I would hope so. Well,
question.
We'll ask Barfeld next time I talk to him. I'll be curious what he says there.
Oh, I'd be curious too. I'll call him next.
There you
He
go.
hasn't called me back yet.
There you go. If I get the scoop from him exclusive, let me know.
Yeah.
You're also a big, last question, you're also a big Dodger fan, as you've told me right before. Just talk about your sports fan, enjoying the Dodgers. They just won the World Series, first time since '88. Dave Roberts, the manager, you probably now appreciate more. They have to play like the Giants 4 times in a series sometimes. So you could probably now appreciate what baseball has to do, playing 4-game series and things like that, right?
Man, I would love to talk to him. You want to give me advice? Yeah, I've been a Dodger fan since, Brett Butler. He was kind of the first true slapper in baseball. And so ever since then, because I'm actually only 10 minutes from Angel Stadium, but man, the Dodger blue got me. So been a fan there. I'm a huge Laker fan. So
wow.
Yeah, so I like winners, I guess. Still a fan when they were struggling. So, I got my Kobe jersey, hung up, and the Dodgers, I think when they won, I screaming on the couch, and I bought every single thing that you can. As my mask is a Dodger mask. And so, yeah, it's fun because my dad was always a Lakers fan when he moved here. So I just kind of followed the footsteps on that. And then Dodgers just happened to be because I liked watching Brett Butler play.
Brett Butler. That would not. Yeah, that's a funny. Because he was a Giant too.
Yep, he was a Giant also.
So he played in both teams.
Yeah, his book was probably one of the first sports books that I ever read, and I still have it. So that, and then do you want to know a secret? It's not a secret, but kind of a secret.
Sure.
I'm a huge WWE fan.
There you go. So you've come to the right show for that.
Yeah, I've been to 2 WrestleManias.
Me too.
Yeah.
Which ones did you go to?
The one in Atlanta and the one in the AT&T Stadium in Dallas.
Okay. So the one in Atlanta, is that the one where The Rock was Cena and Miz main event there? The Rock was involved in that, right? And then Dallas was the one where they had Roman Reigns and Triple H, right?
Yeah. So the cool thing about so I was at Tulsa when I went to the one in Dallas with friends. My friends went the weekend, but we actually had a home series. And so a Dallas flight from Tulsa was super easy. So I flew out after our Sunday game, got there in time, took the public transportation to Jerry World, and met my friends there. Actually met Coach, took a picture with him on the way to my seats, and then met my friends there, and then flew out the next morning to make it back in time for work.
Wow. That's pretty wild. I've been to 2 of them. They're both in Orlando, and usually it was right. Fortunately, softball was on the road, so I didn't have to worry about broadcasting there. But I've been to the 2 in Orlando that they've had, which is a lot of fun. deal. How long have you been a fan?
Oh gosh, I hope my dad doesn't watch this. So you know how like most people like snuck out and went to parties?
Yeah.
Yeah, my friends and I snuck out and went to SmackDown and Raw at Staples Center and Anaheim Pond.
Okay. Are we talking what, late 90s? We're talking
we're talking about like
the boom era, the big era, when they're Austin Rock, right? That was, everybody was into it.
The Hardy Boys. I was at you remember the TLCs, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was at the third one live with Chris Jericho and Benoit one.
Yes.
Yes, I was there live.
Wow. That's pretty good. This is incredible. Like, dude, I feel like you should be our wrestling analyst. You know, we had Coach Asanio, who's used to wrestle. He's at Maris.
I'm a huge fan of him. Wrestling Joe.
That's right. Oh, look at that. This is incredible. We're gonna have to get to the two of you in the same podcast at some point.
I always joke that I don't want a ring. I want a belt.
Oh, I'm with you on that.
I need to call Vince McMahon or Paul Levesque or someone.
Yeah. Are you gonna watch Mania this year?
Yeah, I watch it every year.
Do you have any predictions you want to set here?
No, I'm not doing the predictions. Not doing the predictions. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we'll have to do this. We'll have to get you and Joe back in the summer, in the off season, maybe around SummerSlam or something, and go more into it.
I am all in.
This is wild. Who's your favorite wrestler?
So, I mean, The Undertaker, obviously.
Ooh,
I mean, you can't go wrong with him. Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Have to go with, and then like currently or recently, it's Randy Orton.
Yeah, he's been good on a roll lately.
Yeah, and then I actually, when I was at Western Kentucky, they did a house show in our basketball stadium.
Okay.
So I was there and met all of them to take pictures with.
This is great.
I have a picture with Randy Orton, which is one of my favorite pictures ever.
Ooh, that's
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan, Mark Henry.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right, we'll definitely have to bring you back in the summer.
Not just a casual fan.
No. How have we only just met now? Where have you been? Like, how is this possible? Like,
you in Central Florida. That's why.
I'm in the press box. You know, I always went to Barfield instead of talking to you. I made that mistake. I should have just gone to you instead of Coach Barfield. You know.
Yeah.
Get the Tulsa deal. Favorite Laker?
Sedale 3.
Sedale 3. Nobody said.
Old school. Old school. No, but I mean Kobe Bryant, obviously.
Yeah.
But Sedale 3, old school. And then you can't go wrong with Robert Horry, but he's been on different teams.
True.
Someone that has that many rings, I mean.
But you all have accepted LeBron, right? You're not one of those Laker fans that kind of held LeBron to like, hey, you're not.
No. So here's my thought on LeBron James.
Okay.
Who wouldn't want him on your team? He's a winner. So I accept winners to come, be a Laker, win us championships. But as a player, I'm a Kobe fan.
Fair enough. That's fair.
If that makes sense.
No, I think it does. I think that's a fair description. He's a Laker, diehard, day one, all that. Obviously, with everything he's done, he's
only team he's ever been on.
And I would imagine you're like a lot of coaches. I've been pretty blown away since obviously his unfortunate passing, that his spirit and the Black Mamba ability, that coaches have used that and told their players about it. Chris Beard has a Kobe Bryant jersey that he wears. And it's kind of a message to the team, and he's not alone in that. I mean, I'm assuming you're the same too. Have you, when that happened, you talked to your players, and even today, to this day, you talked to them? I know the 1-year anniversary just passed by recently.
Actually, no. I mean, I'm not like, I don't have those motivational words or, slogans or anything like that. I mean, I believe that motivation comes from within.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a little bit different in that sense, that I'm there to support them 100% in what they want to do. But in terms of like motivational speaking or words or phrases, I mean, the only quote that I'm like a huge fan of, and this is one, I think it comes from the Marines. It might come from the Marines. I don't know, is that there's no such thing as rising up to the occasion. You always fall back to your lowest level of training. So if your training is up here, that when things get tough, you're going to end up here.
Yeah.
But so Yeah, no, I don't. I kind of use it personally, but I don't
Right.
express that to my team in the sense of the mom of mentality, because each and every single person has their own.
They got to find themselves. Right.
Right. They motivate themselves in their own way. I mean, one of our freshmen, her motivation is she has songs that I've never even heard of, and she's an artist, and she does it this way. And then one girl is super serious. So their motivations come in different levels. So, or not levels, sorry, different ways.
Different ways. Right. Different ways.
Yeah.
And hey, it's working. It's working right now over there.
It's all because of them. I mean, I just sit back and enjoy the show. That's what I do.
Well, you've helped the show make it pretty good there, Coach. Congrats so far on the great start. Good luck the rest of the way. This is awesome to talk to. We'll definitely get you back on, and have fun, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thank you very much.